Net zero? Net so much. The former governor of the Bank of England, Mark Carney, has said that reducing carbon emissions will involve exceptionally expensive costs in a world of lower growth and higher debt, making it harder to transition to net zero. He said a weak global economy, higher inflation and the conflict in Ukraine, plus the Middle East conflict, had thrown the world into an age of uncertainty. No shit, Sherlock. Let's be honest, the flame on this project is flickering. Candle in the wind turbine. After Rishi Sunak identified concerns among voters about the growing cost of this wild experiment, he announced a major slowdown in the race to zero emissions. Emmanuel Macron in France, a guy for whom I'm growing a lot of respect, recently said that Europe has done enough for now and worse polluters must do the heavy lifting. How right he is. The public around the world, and now finally our leaders, are growing tired of the hot air from climate activists. No one's got the money for electric cars, which leave you beset with range anxiety if you're going anywhere further than your local Tesco. And heat pump boilers are an expensive nightmare, costing tens of thousands of pounds. They're inappropriate for many properties, and they don't actually make the water very hot. Insulating the country is a lovely idea, but it will cost billions that we don't have. Where would you cut elsewhere? The NHS? Schools? Policing? Good luck with that. Net zero is going the way of the COVID lockdowns, an abject and financially ruinous failure, a car crash in slow motion, a globalist wet dream which is collapsing under the weight of its own rhetoric. Politicians have not been straight with the public about the cost of net zero, with conservative estimates suggesting every UK household would have to find up to £15,000 between now and 2030 to fund this wild experiment. Now, my brilliant colleague Melissa asked me today in the meeting why I used the word experiment. A great question, because we don't know, despite the eye-watering cost, whether all of this will even work. We don't know whether windmills, solar panels and wave technology are ever going to fulfill our energy needs or produce a drop in the world's temperature, especially with our contribution to emissions being a measly 1%. It's all a massive punt, and it's our money and our way of life that they're gambling with. And what a sick joke it is that the Green lobby stopped us building nuclear power stations 20 years ago. And what a pathetic spectacle it is that Britain does a deal to import shale gas from America, even though we have large amounts of coal, gas, oil, and yes, even shale on our own shores. The scientific case for net zero is flaky at best. Look at Germany, who have spent 10 years investing billions in green renewables and yet found themselves reliant on Vladimir Putin's gas to keep the lights on. The Germans, and I'm not making this up, you won't believe this, the Germans are currently tearing down windmills so they can reopen coal mines. You're welcome. And the economic case for net zero is dead too, because it was only going to work in an environment of low interest rates where debt is cheap. Well, that era, like Madonna's career, is behind us. The International Energy Agency estimates that achieving net zero emissions by 2050 will require additional investment of up to $2.5 trillion globally over the next 10 years. And the rest. By which time, we'll all be living outside in tent cities, reading by candlelight, eating cockroach soup, and selling our firstborn to the highest bidder. The cosy green consensus is crumbling. Net zero has run out of money, run out of public support, and run out of steam. In the end, it's just been another liberal progressive vanity project, which is doomed to fail. Go woke, no smoke. Net zero, more like never zero.